Stop scrolling. What I'm about to say, most people in your life will never tell you. By the end of this video, you will never look at your money the same way again. Here's the truth nobody is talking about. You are probably more financially aware than most people around you. You think about money. You watch content like this. You have probably cut something out recently, set a goal, or checked your account more times than you would like to admit. That puts you ahead. Give yourself that. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. There's a massive difference between thinking about money and actually being positioned well with money. And right now, in 2026, that gap is wider than it has ever been. 79% of Americans feel confident about their financial future. Sounds great, but 52% of those same people are living paycheck to paycheck. 57% cannot cover a single $1,000 emergency without going into debt or borrowing from someone they'd rather not make. In the UK, the picture is almost identical. In Canada, nearly 4 in 10 adults say an unexpected $900 expense would cause serious financial difficulty. In Australia, 1 in 3 adults has less than 1 month of living expenses saved. Think about that. Now, here's where it gets psychologically interesting. You might be thinking, okay, but that's other people. I'm more aware than that. And that's exactly what they think too. 79% of Americans describe themselves as optimistic about their financial future, almost 4 out of 5. And yet, the savings rates, the debt levels, the retirement numbers, they tell a completely different story. Financial psychologists call this the optimism action gap, the space between how good you feel about where you're headed and what you're actually doing to get there. In 2026, that gap is wider than it has ever been. Here's another number that will stop you cold. The average financial literacy score across American adults is just 49%. The average person answers fewer than half of basic personal finance questions correctly. Gen Z scores even lower, 38%. And here's why that's genuinely alarming. Adults with very low financial literacy are 3 times more likely to be financially fragile and 5 times more likely to have zero emergency savings compared to those who score higher. The knowledge gap is not academic. It's costing people real money every single month. Then there's retirement. The average American retiree has $288,000 saved. Sounds like a lot until you hear this. Retirees themselves say you need at least $823,000 to retire comfortably in 2026. That's a gap of over $500,000. 29% of Americans have zero retirement savings. Not a little, zero. And 57% of retirees admit they didn't start saving until after age 30. 31% waited until they were 40. See the pattern? It's not that people don't care. Almost everyone cares. It's not that people are lazy. Most people are working incredibly hard. The pattern runs deeper than that. The average adult is operating from financial beliefs about money, saving, debt, wealth that were formed before they were old enough to understand any of it. Financial psychologists have found that the average adult carries between 50 and 200 unconscious money beliefs running on complete autopilot every single day, directing how they spend, how they save, how they react when money arrives, and how they behave when it runs out. Most people have never examined a single one. They just live by them. And in most cases, those beliefs aren't just outdated, they're actively expensive. We're going to come back to exactly where those beliefs come from, because that part of this conversation is going to be one of the most eye-opening things you hear today. But first, every single number I just gave you connects back to one thing, a framework, a pattern of thinking that operates in distinct levels. In the next section, I'm going to show you exactly which level your mindset is currently running on. Here is the framework that connects every single one of those numbers. Pay close attention, because once you see this, the way you think about your own money is never going to be quite the same again. Here's what most people never realize. Your money mindset did not develop randomly. It was shaped by a specific era, a specific set of economic conditions, cultural beliefs, and family environments that programs how you think about earning, spending, saving, and building wealth. And the real problem, the one silently costing millions of people tens of thousands of dollars right now, is when your money mindset era does not match the financial world you are actually living in today. Think about it this way. Imagine trying to run a brand new 2026 application on a 1995 operating system. The app is your income, your opportunities, every financial tool available to you right now. The operating system is your money mindset, and no matter how powerful that app is, if the system underneath was built for a different world, it keeps crashing. Not because you are not smart enough, not because you are not working hard enough, because you're running the wrong software for the life you are trying to build. There are 4 money mindset eras. One of them is running your financial life right now, whether you know it or not. Era 1, the survival mindset. This is the 1970s programming. If you grew up around parents or grandparents who lived through economic scarcity, high unemployment, or times when one missed paycheck could threaten the whole family, this mindset is probably somewhere in your system right now. The survival mindset says, cash is king, debt is dangerous, work one job, stay loyal, keep your head down, own your home, pay it off. That is the plan. And for the world it was built for, it was brilliant. It kept families stable, it built real discipline. But here's what the survival mindset cannot see. It was designed for scarcity, which means it's completely blind to growth. Someone running this mindset in 2026 keeps money in a basic savings account earning 0.5%, while inflation quietly erodes its value every year. They avoid the stock market because it feels like gambling, while the people around them build wealth through index funds returning 8 to 10% annually over decades. The survival mindset protects you from losing, but it also stops you from winning. Era 2, the stability mindset. This is the 1990s programming, and it's incredibly common, especially among people in their late 30s, 40s, and early 50s right now. The stability mindset says, get a good education, climb the career ladder, use credit responsibly, contribute to your 401k, buy a house, pay it down over 30 years, and eventually everything works out. This mindset built a generation of financially functional adults, more aware than their parents, more strategic, more willing to use financial tools. But here's the gap. The stability mindset was built for an economy where job loyalty paid off, pensions existed, and following the standard roadmap led reliably to a comfortable retirement. That economy no longer exists. Today, someone running a pure stability mindset is contributing 6% to their 401k because that's what their company suggests, not knowing that 90% of Americans invest far below the 15% benchmark experts actually recommend. They're staying at the same company for a decade, taking 3% raises, not knowing that job switchers average 10 to 20% salary increases per move. The stability mindset isn't wrong, it's just incomplete for 2026. Era 3, the growth mindset. This is the 2026 programming, and this is what the data consistently shows is building real, lasting, generational wealth in the current economy. The growth mindset says, automate everything, build systems that work whether you are awake or asleep, invest consistently in low-cost index funds, keep a high-yield savings account as your minimum baseline, treat every raise as new capital to deploy, not as permission to upgrade your lifestyle, build multiple income streams. Understand that your most powerful financial asset is not your salary, it's time combined with consistent action. The person running the growth mindset isn't necessarily earning more than everyone around them. The research is clear. Wealth is not primarily about income. It's about the gap between what you earn and what you keep, and how consistently you put that gap to work. They're not checking their accounts 17 times a day in anxiety. They built a system. They review it once a week with intention. They're not waiting to feel ready to invest. They invest automatically and let compound interest do the heavy lifting. The growth mindset is not about being perfect with money. It's about building a system that doesn't require perfection to function. Era 4, the invisible mindset. This is the one I need you to hear because this is the most common mindset position of all and the most expensive. The invisible mindset has no era, no conscious framework, no deliberate system, just a collection of inherited beliefs, emotional reactions, and financial habits absorbed in childhood, running on autopilot every single day without the person ever knowing it. The person in the invisible mindset isn't responsible, not stupid, not lazy. They're simply operating from a financial operating system they never chose, never examined, and never questioned. They spend when stressed because somewhere along the way they learned that spending brings relief. They avoid looking at their bank account because somewhere along the way they learned that money conversations meant conflict or shame. They feel guilty about wanting more because somewhere along the way they were told that wanting more was greedy. And here's the brutal honesty. Most people watching this right now, including people who consider themselves financially aware, have at least one or two invisible mindset beliefs running underneath the surface. Beliefs so deeply ingrained, they don't feel like beliefs at all. They just feel like reality. We're going deeper on where those beliefs come from later in this video. That part of the conversation is going to change something for a lot of people. But right now, I need to show you something even more important. Knowing which era shaped you is half the picture. The other half, the half that actually determines whether you build wealth or stay stuck, is what happens when you take that mindset and apply it to 6 specific areas of your financial life. 6 areas where your beliefs are either working silently for you or working silently against you every single day. This is where the real diagnostic begins. This is where you stop looking at national statistics and start looking at yourself. And I'm going to warn you right now, at least 2 of the 6 areas we're about to cover are going to make you rethink something you currently believe is completely fine. Stay with me, because what comes next is the part that actually changes things. Now let us get specific. Knowing which mindset era you are in is one thing. Seeing exactly where that mindset is showing up in your real financial life, in your actual decisions, your actual habits, your actual bank account, that is something completely different. For each area, I am going to show you 3 things. The wrong belief most people carry, what the data actually reveals, and what someone with an advanced money mindset does differently in the exact same situation. Pay attention to which ones feel familiar, because that familiarity is your diagnostic result showing up in real time. Area 1, emergency preparedness. Here's what most people believe. Because they pay their bills on time, never miss a rent payment, show up to work and handle their responsibilities, they are financially responsible, and they should feel good about that. That takes real discipline. But here's what the data says. According to Bankrate's 2026 report, only 30% of Americans would cover a $1,000 emergency using savings. 30%. That means 70% of people who pay their bills, people who consider themselves responsible, would have to borrow money, use a credit card, or make a phone call they would rather not make if their car broke down tomorrow morning. Meet Vanessa. 31 years old, works in healthcare, earns $58,000 a year, never misses a payment, and feels pretty good about where she is financially. Last Tuesday, her boiler stopped working. $1,400 to repair. Vanessa did not have it in savings. She put it on her credit card at 23% interest and paid the minimum that month. That $1,400 repair is going to cost her over $4,000 by the time she actually pays it off. Not because she's irresponsible, because she confused paying bills on time with being financially prepared. Those are 2 completely different things. The person with an advanced money mindset sees the emergency fund differently, not as money sitting there doing nothing, as a financial shock absorber that protects every other part of their plan. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account means when life happens, and life always happens, it doesn't derail their investing, create new debt, or cost them sleep. The emergency fund isn't a safety net. It's a strategic offensive tool that keeps your entire financial plan intact when the world throws something at you. Area 2, savings and growth. Here's the belief that sounds the most responsible of all 6 areas. Keeping money in a savings account is safe and smart. The number never goes down, the money's always there, it feels secure. Here's what's actually happening to that money right now. The average traditional savings account in America is earning between 0.4 and 0.5% annually. Meanwhile, inflation in 2025 and 2026 has been running at 3 to 4%. If you have $10,000 in a standard savings account, you're earning about $45 a year in interest, but inflation is quietly reducing the purchasing power of that same $10,000 by $300 to $400 every single year. You're not saving money, you're losing it in slow motion, while the number on your screen stays the same and makes you feel fine. Meet Marcus. 3 years of disciplined saving, $12,000 built up. He's genuinely proud of that, and he should be. But in those 3 years, his account earned him about $180 in interest. Meanwhile, inflation eroded the real value of that money by over $1,200. His $12,000 in 2026 buys him less than his $9,000 did when he started. Nobody told him, and that's exactly the problem. The person with a growth mindset uses a high-yield savings account as their absolute minimum baseline. Right now, in 2026, the best accounts are paying between 4 and 5%. That same $12,000 would have earned Marcus over $1,700 in a high-yield account instead of $180. And beyond the emergency fund, they're investing consistently in low-cost index funds, not because it's exciting, not to get rich overnight, but because the stock market has historically returned an average of 8 to 10% annually over long periods. That return, compounded consistently over decades, is how ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. You don't need to be a financial expert to do this. You just need to know that the account you're using matters as much as the habit of saving itself. Area 3. Debt psychology. I say this with genuine care because this mindset trap affects nearly half of all adults across every income level. Here's the belief. Making the minimum credit card payment every month means you're handling your debt. You didn't miss a payment, the account is in good standing, you're being responsible. Here's the reality. The average American carrying credit card debt has a balance of over $7,000 at 21 to 23% interest annually. If you make only the minimum payment on $7,000 at 23%, typically around $180 to $200 a month, you'll be paying off that debt for 22 years. 22 years, and by the time you're done, you'll have paid over $18,000 for something that originally cost you $7,000. You didn't manage your debt, you rented it for 2 decades at nearly triple the original cost. Meet Rachel, $6,500 on her credit card. Every month, she pays the minimum, $187. She marks it off her mental list, feels like she handled it. What Rachel doesn't know is that of that $187, approximately $125 went straight to interest. She only reduced her actual balance by $62. At that rate, she'll still be making that payment when she's in her 50s, and she currently thinks she's being responsible. The person with an advanced debt mindset looks at that same statement and asks one question: what is the fastest I can make this number 0? Not the minimum, the maximum, because every extra dollar paid today saves $3 to $4 in interest over the life of that debt. They use the avalanche method, targeting the highest interest debt first, or the snowball method, eliminating the smallest balance first to build psychological momentum. The specific method matters less than the commitment to aggressive elimination rather than passive management. Debt at 23% interest is not something you manage, it's something you destroy as fast as humanly possible. Pause. This is important. I want to stop here for just a moment. Areas 1, 2, and 3, the emergency fund gap, the savings account illusion, the minimum payment trap, those are all symptoms, visible surface-level symptoms of something that runs much deeper. If you've recognized yourself in any of those three areas, I need you to understand something right now. It's not because you're bad with money. It's not because you're careless or lazy or financially hopeless. It's because the beliefs driving those behaviors were formed long before you were old enough to question them, and nobody ever showed you the real cost of those beliefs until right now. Areas 4, 5, and 6 go underneath the symptoms. This is where we look at the actual beliefs generating the behaviors you just recognized. And I'm going to tell you right now, this next half is where most people have their real moment of recognition. Stay with me, because this is where it gets genuinely life-changing. Area 4, income and lifestyle. Here's possibly the most expensive belief on this entire list, and it lives inside some of the highest earning households in the country. Most people believe that once they earn more money, they'll finally get ahead. More income equals more financial progress. Common sense, right? Here's what the data says. 41% of Americans earning over $75,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck. 36% of households earning over $100,000. 20% of households earning over $150,000. More income isn't solving the problem, because more income was never the problem. Meet Brandon, just got a $15,000 raise, now earning $95,000 a year. He upgrades his apartment, upgrades his car lease, starts eating out 4 times a week instead of 2. He tells himself he's earned it. He's worked hard. It's time to enjoy the results. 12 months later, Brandon is earning $95,000 and saving almost exactly the same amount he was saving at $80,000. His raise didn't build his wealth, it built his lifestyle, and his lifestyle immediately expanded to consume every single dollar of the increase. Financial psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Your brain adjusts to a new standard of living remarkably fast, and then treats it as the new normal. The upgrade that felt like a luxury in month 1 feels like a basic necessity by month 6. The growth mindset does something specific and deliberate the moment a raise arrives. Before the new salary hits their account, they've already decided where it's going. 50% of the increase goes directly to investments or debt elimination before they ever see it in their spending account. The lifestyle upgrade, if there is one, is small, intentional, and delayed, not because they're depriving themselves, because they understand that the raise is new capital, and capital deployed into assets now creates the kind of wealth that means they never have to worry about raises again. Wealth is not built by earning more. It's built by keeping more of what you earn and putting it to work before your lifestyle can find it. Area 5, generational programming. This is the area that surprises people the most because it does not feel like a mindset problem. It feels like wisdom. Most people believe they handle money the way they were taught. Their parents worked hard, managed the household, passed down what they knew. That has to count for something. And it does. But here is what the data reveals. The average financial literacy score across American adults is 49%. That score has not improved in almost a decade, and 6 of the most common financial beliefs passed down from older generations are now demonstrably costing younger people money in the current economy. Buy a house as soon as you can. Stay loyal to one employer. Avoid all debt. Save 10% for retirement. These rules were built for an economy with affordable housing, stable pensions, predictable inflation, and career loyalty that actually paid off. That economy no longer exists. Meet Kevin, 38 years old. Handles money exactly the way his dad did, avoids debt at all costs, which means he has never built a credit history strong enough to get a competitive mortgage rate, stayed loyal to the same employer for 11 years, while peers who switch jobs every 3 years are now earning 40% more for the same work. Saves 10% for retirement because his dad said that was enough, not knowing that financial experts now say 15% is the minimum and that Social Security is projected to be only 75% funded by 2035. Kevin is not doing anything wrong by the rules he was given. The rules were just written for a different world. The person with a growth mindset conducts what behavioral finance researchers call a money script audit, a conscious examination of every inherited financial belief to determine whether it still applies in 2026, not to disrespect where it came from, but to update the operating system for the economy they're actually living in. Area 6, Future and Time. I saved this one for last because it carries the most irreversible consequences of all 6, and the math here is so clear and so powerful that once you see it, you will never think about financial timing the same way again. Most people believe they have time. They will figure it out when they're more settled, earning more, less busy. The plan is always the same. Start later when conditions are better. Here's what that plan actually costs. If you're 25 and you start investing just $200 a month at an average annual return of 8%, by 65, you'll have approximately $700,000. The total amount you actually contributed over 40 years is $96,000. The remaining $600,000 is entirely compound interest. Time did that. Not income, not expertise, just time. Now here's the part that changes people. Wait just 10 years. Start at 35 instead of 25. Same $200 a month, same return. By 65, you'll have approximately $310,000. You contributed $72,000 of your own money, and you ended up with less than half of what the 25-year-old built. A 10-year delay cost you nearly $400,000. Not because you invested less, not because you earned less, because compound interest is not about how much you put in, it's about how long it has to work. The retirement data makes this even more alarming. Retirees themselves say you need approximately $823,000 to retire comfortably in 2026. The average American has $288,000. That's a gap of $535,000. 57% of retirees admit they didn't start saving until after age 30. 29% have no retirement savings at all. The person with an advanced time mindset does not wait for perfect conditions. They understand that starting imperfectly today is worth more than starting perfectly in 5 years. They automate their retirement contributions before they have a chance to spend that money. They treat compound interest not as a financial concept, but as a physical force, working silently and relentlessly in their favor every single day they give it time to operate. Time is the one ingredient in building wealth that cannot be bought back. Not with a higher salary, not with a better investment, not with more discipline. Once it's gone, it's gone. And every year you wait has a specific, calculable, permanent cost. Now here's what I need you to understand before we move forward. Every single area we just covered, the emergency fund gap, the savings account illusion, the minimum payment trap, the lifestyle inflation, the inherited money rules, the time delay, none of them are random. None of them are accidents. They all connect back to the stories you were told about money before you were old enough to understand what money actually was. And that's exactly what we're going into next, because this next section does not just show you where your mindset is, it shows you where it came from and why it's been so hard to change, even when you've known for years that something needed to change. This is the part most money videos never talk about. Stay with me. So here's the question sitting in your mind right now. If I know better, why do I keep doing it anyway? Why do I know I should have an emergency fund and still not build one? Why do I understand that minimum payments are a trap and still make them every month? Why do I get a raise, genuinely intend to save more, and somehow end up in the exact same position 6 months later? Why does understanding the problem not fix the problem? Most money videos never answer that question. They show you what to do, they give you the numbers, they hand you the strategies, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Nothing changes because the decisions you make about money every single day are not primarily driven by information. They are driven by something that formed in you long before you ever had a dollar to your name. They are driven by your money scripts. Here's what financial psychologists have discovered after decades of research into why intelligent, hardworking, financially aware people consistently make financially damaging decisions. The average adult carries between 50 and 200 unconscious money beliefs running on complete autopilot every single day. These beliefs were not chosen, they were absorbed from the environment you grew up in, from the words your parents used when money was tight, from the arguments you overheard as a child, from what happened in your house when a bill arrived, when a job was lost, when someone spent too much or saved too little, from the expressions on people's faces when money came up. You were watching all of it, and your developing brain was building a rule book, a set of invisible financial laws that felt like survival instructions at the time. Financial psychologists call these money scripts, and here's what makes them so powerful and so difficult to break. They do not feel like beliefs. They feel like reality. They feel like your personality. They feel like just the way things are. And because they feel that natural, most people live their entire financial lives without examining a single one. There are 4 types. Listen carefully, because you're going to recognize yourself or someone you love in at least one of these. Money script 1. Money avoidance. This is the person who believes somewhere deep down that money is stressful, complicated, or morally problematic, that having too much means something is wrong with you, that wealthy people are greedy, that wanting more makes you shallow, that talking about money is rude or uncomfortable. In adulthood, this shows up as avoiding bank statements, feeling strange guilt when money arrives, unconsciously finding ways to get rid of it quickly once it appears, never quite reaching financial comfort because something inside keeps pulling back from it. Where does it come from? Usually a home where money was a constant source of conflict or shame, where adults fought about it, stressed about it, treated it as something dangerous. The child in that environment learned one lesson clearly: money causes pain. And so the adult version of that child keeps a safe emotional distance from it. Money script number 2, money worship. This is the person who believes that more money will solve everything, that if they could just earn more, save more, have more, all their problems would disappear. Life would finally feel okay. In adulthood, this shows up as chronic overspending, chasing a feeling that money is supposed to bring but never quite does. Overworking to the point of exhaustion, never feeling like enough is enough regardless of what the bank account actually says. A persistent background anxiety that no amount of earning ever fully quiets. Where does it come from? Often a home where money was scarce, and the adults, consciously or not, communicated that money was the answer to everything the family was missing. The child in that environment learned one lesson: if we just had more money, everything would be better. And so the adult version of that child spends their whole life chasing more without ever arriving at the feeling they're looking for. Money script number 3, money status. This is the person who has tied their self-worth directly to their visible financial position, what they drive, where they live, what they wear, what their life looks like to the people around them. This is not vanity. This is a survival strategy that made sense at some point and never got updated. In adulthood, this shows up as spending beyond their actual means to maintain an appearance, hiding debt from partners and family, making financial decisions based on how those decisions look to other people, rather than what those decisions actually build. Feeling genuine panic at the idea of driving a modest car or living in a modest neighborhood because it would signal something unbearable about their worth. Where does it come from? Usually a home where money was used as social currency, where the family's standing in the community was tied to visible success. Or sometimes the opposite, a home where the family felt financially beneath everyone else, and the child made a silent promise they would never feel that way again. Money script number 4, money vigilance. This is the person who saves diligently, avoids debt, keeps cash reserves, takes financial responsibility seriously. But taken to its extreme, and in many people it is, money vigilance creates its own financial dysfunction. Chronic anxiety about money, even when the numbers are objectively healthy. Refusing to invest because any risk feels unbearable. Keeping too much cash in accounts losing value to inflation because at least the number never goes down. being unable to spend money on meaningful experiences, necessary healthcare, or genuine quality of life because the fear of financial disaster is always louder than the evidence of financial security. Where does it come from? Often a home that experienced real financial trauma, bankruptcy, sudden job loss, poverty that wasn't theoretical but lived. The child in that environment didn't just learn that money was important, they learned it in their body, in a way that no amount of later financial success can fully erase. That money can disappear, and when it does, everything falls apart. Now, here's what I want you to sit with. Do you recognize yourself in any of those? Maybe more than one. Most people do, because most people aren't running a single pure money script. They're running a combination, a little money vigilance mixed with some money status, money worship underneath a surface layer of money avoidance. These scripts stack on top of each other and interact in ways that make financial behavior look random or contradictory from the outside, but make complete internal sense once you can see the programming underneath. And here's the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video. Your parents were not trying to hurt you. Every money script passed down to you came from their own experience, their own scarcity, their own financial trauma from the generation before them. When your mom said, "We can't afford it," every single time you asked for something, she wasn't teaching you that wanting things is wrong. She was protecting you from the disappointment she felt. When your dad said, "Money doesn't grow on trees," he wasn't trying to make you anxious about finances for the rest of your life. He was sharing the weight he carried so you would take money seriously. They were doing the best they could with the financial programming they themselves had never examined. But here's the reality that changes everything. Protection without education creates patterns, and those patterns, the avoidance, the anxiety, the status chasing, the worship of more, have been running your financial life for years, without your permission, without your awareness, not because you're broken, not because you're bad with money, but because you've been running software you didn't install, were never shown how to operate, and certainly were never taught how to update. Here's what this looks like in real life. Marcus is 34. He has $3,000 sitting in his checking account right now. He can absolutely afford to buy his kids the cereal they asked for at the grocery store. He knows he can. But when his daughter points at the box, something automatic happens. His jaw tightens. The words, "We can't afford it," come out before he's even thought about them. Later that night, he sits at his kitchen table, genuinely confused about why he said that, because he can afford it. He's been able to afford it for years. But somewhere around age 7, in a kitchen very different from this one, that phrase got written into his operating system as a rule, and it's been running ever since. Or consider Jessica. She just received a $4,000 tax refund. She knows she should put some toward her student loans. She's been telling herself she would the moment she had extra money. But the moment that deposit hits her account, something shifts. Within 3 weeks, she spent most of it. New furniture, new clothes, a weekend trip. When her sister asks about the loans, she feels a strange mix of guilt and defensiveness. Jessica grew up in a home where money was so scarce that the moment it appeared, the family spent it, not irresponsibly, out of relief, out of the deep-seated belief that money never stays, so you might as well enjoy it while it's here. That belief has been living in Jessica's financial decisions for over a decade. She hasn't been reckless. She's been running a childhood program written in scarcity. This is the reality most financial content never touches, because it's uncomfortable, because it requires looking at where you came from rather than just where you're going. But here's why it matters so fundamentally. You can't consistently change a behavior you don't understand. You can white-knuckle it for a while. You can follow a budget for 30 days. You can make a plan and stick to it until something stressful happens and the old patterns rush right back in. But lasting financial change, the kind that builds real wealth over time, doesn't come from willpower. It comes from awareness, from being able to look at a financial decision and recognize the script underneath it, and then consciously, deliberately choosing differently. Not because someone told you what to do, but because you finally understand why you were doing what you were doing. And that understanding gives you something willpower never could give. It gives you a choice. We have covered a lot of ground. You know what the national baseline looks like. You know which mindset era is running your financial life. You have been through all 6 diagnostic areas, and now you understand where the programming underneath all of it actually came from. But I promised you at the beginning of this video that by the end, you would not just know your position, you would know what to do about it. That is exactly where we are going right now. This last section is not about diagnosis anymore. This is about direction. This is where everything we have covered comes together into something you can actually use, starting today. Not next month, not when conditions are better. Today. Stay with me because the best part of this conversation is what comes next. So here is where we bring everything together. You came into this video with one question. How behind is my money mindset? And you deserve a clear, honest answer. Not a vague one, not a feel-good one, a real one. Think of this like a financial GPS. The most sophisticated navigation system in the world is completely useless if it does not know where you currently are. It does not matter how accurate the maps are. It does not matter how clear the destination is. Without your starting coordinates, the directions mean nothing. What you are about to receive are your starting coordinates, and with those coordinates, everything changes. There are 3 positions. Be honest with yourself about which one describes where you actually are right now. Position 1, behind the baseline. This is the person operating primarily from childhood money scripts with no conscious financial framework in place. Money decisions are driven by emotion, social comparison, or avoidance rather than intention. The emergency fund does not exist or is dangerously small. Debt is being managed rather than eliminated. Savings are sitting in accounts losing value to inflation. Income increases get absorbed by lifestyle upgrades within months. And underneath it all, a set of inherited beliefs about money is running the show completely unchallenged. If this is you, being here is not a verdict. It is a starting point, and the fact that you can now see it clearly is already more than most people in this position will ever allow themselves to see. Position 2, at the baseline. This is the person who is aware but inconsistent. They know the right things to do. They have good intentions. They've probably started and restarted financial plans more than once. They have some savings, but not enough. They're contributing something to retirement, but not the right amount. They understand their habits could be better and genuinely want to improve, but the gap between knowing and consistently doing has never fully closed. This is where the majority of financially aware people sit, and the reason that gap stays open is almost always one of the money scripts we covered earlier. The awareness is there, the programming underneath is still running the old patterns. The missing piece is not more information. It is the conscious decision to examine which inherited beliefs are quietly undermining every plan they make. Position 3, ahead of the baseline. This is the person with a conscious, deliberate financial system that runs whether they're paying attention to it or not. Savings are automated, investments are consistent, the emergency fund is fully funded and sitting in a high-yield account, earning real returns. Debt, if any exists, has a specific aggressive elimination strategy attached to it. When a raise arrives, they've already decided where it goes before it hits their account, and they've done the work, consciously or through experience, of identifying which inherited money beliefs serve them and which ones they've chosen to leave behind. This person is not necessarily earning more than everyone around them. In many cases, they're not. What separates them isn't income, it's intention. The decision, made repeatedly, consistently over time, to let their financial system work for them, rather than working endlessly for their financial system. Now, here's the question I want you to carry with you from this video. Is your money working for you while you sleep, or are you working for your money while you're awake? That single question cuts through everything, through the budgets and the strategies and the savings rates and the investment accounts. It gets to the heart of what a healthy money mindset actually produces. A quiet, consistent, automated system that keeps building your wealth whether you're thinking about it or not. That's the destination. Knowing your position right now, honestly, clearly, without judgment, is the only thing that makes navigating toward that destination possible. Here is what I want you to take away from everything we covered today. Not a list, not a set of rules, something deeper than that. The most important financial shift you can make has nothing to do with a budget or an investment account or a savings rate. It starts with this: understanding that the way you've been thinking about money is not who you are. It is what you were taught, and what you were taught can be unlearned, examined, and replaced with something that actually serves the life you're trying to build. Think about what we covered today. You now understand that 79% of people feel financially confident while living inside a financial reality that doesn't match that confidence. You're no longer one of those people. You've looked at the actual data. You've run the actual diagnostic. You know which mindset era has been shaping your decisions. You know which money scripts have been running underneath the surface of every financial choice you've made. You know which of the 6 areas need your attention most urgently. And you know, maybe for the first time with complete clarity, exactly where your starting coordinates are. That's not a small thing. That's genuinely rare. Most people around you right now, your colleagues, your friends, your family members, are going to go through their entire financial life running the same inherited programs, making the same emotionally driven decisions, feeling the same quiet anxiety about money that never quite goes away. Not because they're not intelligent, not because they don't care, but because nobody ever sat them down and showed them the actual picture. Nobody ever connected the dots between their childhood environment and their adult financial behavior. Nobody ever gave them the framework to understand not just what to do differently, but why they've been doing what they've been doing. You just got that. Use it. Here's the one thing I want you to do today. Not tomorrow, not next month when things settle down. Today. Pick one area from the 6 we covered. Just one, the one that made you the most uncomfortable, the one where you recognized yourself most clearly, the one where you finally understood why you've been stuck, and make one specific decision about it today. Not a plan, not a resolution, a decision. Open the high-yield savings account, set up the automatic transfer, make the extra payment on the debt. Look at your retirement contribution and ask honestly whether it's actually enough. Have the money conversation you've been avoiding. Do one thing your old money script wouldn't have done. Because here's the truth I want to leave you with. The gap between where your money mindset is today and where it needs to be is not a life sentence. It's a gap in information, awareness, and inherited programming, and you've just closed a significant part of it in the time it took to watch this video. The operating system you arrived with is not the one you have to keep running. Every conscious financial decision you make from this moment forward is an update, a line of new code, a vote for the financial identity you're choosing rather than the one you inherited. You're not behind because you're broken. You're not behind because you're not smart enough, not disciplined enough, or not worthy of financial security. You're where you are because of what you were shown, what you were taught, and what nobody ever thought to question on your behalf. But you're questioning it now, and that changes everything. I'm Floxy, your wealth coach, and this is what I do here. I don't just tell you what to do with your money. I show you how to think about it differently. Because when the thinking changes, the decisions change. And when the decisions change, the life changes. That's the work. And it starts right here. If this video gave you even one moment of genuine clarity, one thing you saw differently, one belief you recognized, one area where you finally understood why you've been stuck, do me one favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. Because every single video on this channel is built to do exactly what this one just did. Go deeper than the surface, challenge what you think you know, and give you the kind of financial education that actually changes things. And one more thing before you go. I've been working on something that takes everything we covered in this video, the mindset diagnostics, the era frameworks, the money script awareness, the 6 areas, and turns it into a complete, structured, step-by-step resource you can work through at your own pace and apply it to your specific financial situation. Not generic advice, not one size fits all, something built specifically for people who are serious about understanding and upgrading their money mindset in a way that creates real, lasting change. The people who get access first are going to have a significant advantage, and the details are already waiting for you. Check the description box below. Everything you need to know is right there. The information is in your hands now. The next move is yours. Go build something real.